who knew he would. And here's where we just have to affirm the Word of God is true, right? Christ rose from the dead. That really happened. It's the Word of God that determines the possible and the impossible in this universe, not man's limited sensory knowledge that God has allowed him to have, much of which is wrong. Because we discover it later all the time that we were wrong. Do you know that just this past couple of weeks, I think it was March 24th was the article was published, they just discovered new light waves on the sun. Don't do it now, but do a search for new light waves sun. And you're going to get all these articles and these things. They just found, they never knew they were there. These new kind of waves on the sun. And I don't even know what that means now. It's funny because if you would have said that these waves were there, 2 months ago, they would have said, you're an idiot, you're not scientific. And now they know something that they didn't know before. Maybe that'll correct something, or maybe something else will happen that'll correct this. We really want to trust what man says is possible or impossible? The Word of God said he would rise. That's what's true. It's God's power, it's God's truth that determines reality. And Jesus rose again from the dead, and we're going to look at that, Lord willing, on Easter Sunday. And we must affirm that. Christianity is ultimately based on the supernatural. God spoke into this world. That's not natural. That's beyond natural. That's not against the nature, but it's beyond the power of nature. We don't just make up this religion because it makes us feel good. I think that's what you're left with if you don't affirm the supernatural resurrection of Christ. You're left with the psychological kind of mind trick that you play because it helps you to cope. Well, we recognize that if we believe in certain things and act like they're real, we can sort of escape to this fantasy world that we've made, and life gets a little easier for a time. And for many, that is what Christianity is. That's liberal Christianity. They've denied the supernatural a long time ago. Christianity is valuable because it works. America's contribution to the philosophical spectrum, utilitarianism. Does it work? Well, that's all right. Good for you. I remember giving my testimony to a man that I worked with, the head director at the time for the news at Fox. And we were both golfers, so we would go out once in a while. He was actually good. He was a scratch golfer for a time, so he'd smoke me. But I could hit the ball further than him, so at least I had that. But we're out, and I wanted to witness to him. I wanted to talk to him about the Lord. I sort of did here and there, but when you're working together, I want to do my job well. I think that's our number one witness as a Christian. When you're at work, you be the best worker you can be. But we were out, and so we were at I think we were just at some place getting some food later that night, and I started to tell him about my testimony, about how I came to Christ and how he changed my life. And because he confessed to me he was having trouble with his marriage, and maybe they were going to divorce. And so I tried to just show him that it's ultimately Christ is what he needs. And after I gave him my testimony and how I had this accident, this horrible accident, my friend was killed, and God used that to bring me to him and change my life and change my desires, and I wanted to live for him now. And you know what he said to me when I was done? He said, I can see that's good for you. I can see that you needed that. I can see that, wow, that really worked for you. That's what you needed to sort of live a healthier life. And that's what Christianity was to him. It worked for you as a set of experiences, a set of things that you believed. Didn't matter if it was real or not, but boy, that really helps you to cope. This psychological panacea of pretend. Jesus rose from the dead. You can believe that or not, but if you don't, then you're believing something that's false, or you're not believing something that's true, I should say. He did. It happened. His feet touched the ground again. They got dirty again. He walked. The synapses in his brain worked again. The nerves began firing again. The blood began pumping again. The muscles began contracting again. His body came back to life, physically, really. And he knew it would happen, and he predicted it as he's about to suffer the wrath of God. Our faith is based upon a man who was actually God and man. And he did a plethora of supernatural miracles that people saw and experienced. And it wasn't, oh yeah, I feel better now. Thanks for praying for me, Pastor. The blind saw, the deaf heard, the paralyzed walked instantly. Our faith is supernatural. Christ affirmed it. He affirmed he would be raised from the dead. He believed in his resurrection. Thirdly, I want you to notice the certain confidence of man. I want you to notice